Well, good morning. It's 9:15 on a very, very beautiful September morning, beautiful autumn morning. I've had an eventful start to the day already, and I've seen the Scottish Outdoor Access Code in operation firsthand. I was going to go up a hill called Buachaille, which is this one here. I've climbed just about everything here in Glen Etive over the years, except that one. It just seems to have eluded me somehow. Possibly because it's all by itself and it doesn't form part of a bigger walk. You have to sort of go up and down, and it's a half a day walk rather than a full day, which is why I've never done it until now. Anyway, I was parked down there, just sat, about to set off, and a Land Rover pulled up with two deer stalkers, presumably from the Downess estate here, and they just asked where I was headed, and I said Buachaille, and they said, oh, that's where we're stalking today. He pointed at sort of this side of the hill and said they're going to be going up there and going that way because of the weather at the moment. He said all the deer would like to be up high, and the wind is coming from this direction. So if I was going up there and going over the tops of the hills, most likely I would push the deer away before they even got there. So to be fair to them, they said, would I mind maybe perhaps going up this hill from the far side, further down Glen Etive, which I didn't really want to do. Because I quite want to go to this little notch. You can't see it from this angle, but there's a little notch on this side of the hill which I wanted to go up. But I said, don't worry, I'll just go up the Buachaille instead, Buachaille Moor, which is up here. So I don't mind doing that. I was quite happy to give up my route. To be fair to them, they could have just said, could you choose another hill? But they didn't. They said, why don't you try this way up the hill? And in exchange, I said, no, it's all right, I'll go up this one instead. And everything was fine, and they seem to appreciate it, and I don't mind, and it's no great inconvenience to anyone, other than the fact that I do now have to phone the person I left my route with today to tell them that I won't be going up that anymore. I'm going up this one. I'm going up Buachaille Moor. The problem with that, of course, is that there's no phone reception here, and I'm going to have to wait until I'm halfway up before I say. But it's a problem I can overcome once I get about halfway up. This made me feel quite good, actually. It's a nice example of how, just by having a chat with whoever's on, you see, it's always worth speaking to stalkers, gamekeepers, whoever. If you're walking around in the hills, it's always worth asking them where they're going and what they're doing, so that people don't honk each other off. Oh, good Lord. Is this really what hill walkers are using to get up hills these days? It's very, very unusual to see cans up here, as far up a hill as this. Normally, in laybys and car parks, maybe a couple of 100 metres from the road, but to find them right up here is really strange. Some nasty person's left this. I should put it in my bag and take it out. It's no bad thing that I'm climbing this hill. It's one that I've only done twice actually, and then it was, the last time I did it was, oh God, 9 years ago I think, was the last time I was here. I've never been up from most folk come up from the other side, from the road, and come up sort of the north side. But the first time I came up this, which I don't know, I think arguably is a much wilder and more atmospheric approach to the hill. The other side is steeper, I think, and doesn't really have this. It almost feels sort of like a Himalayan defile in a way. It's got that look to it, and of course, being me, I'm always after the routes that don't really take me near other people. I'll sure see folk at the top, but this approach, I have not seen any footprints. I've seen plenty of deer prints. when I came up here the first time, I got up about here and I saw a pair of golden eagles, which I think that was the first I'd seen in Scotland actually in 2003 when I moved up here. So there's always that element of, I think you've got greater chance of seeing wildlife if you do try and stick to routes that are off the beaten track. And this approach to the Buachaille from Glen Etive is one of those routes. I don't actually remember it being quite as rugged and wild and rocky as this. And though I don't actually recall coming this way, well, I know I came up this route, but I don't remember it being as rocky. Though I don't actually remember it, I know I must have done, because there's a very, very unusual tree and familiar tree that I remember taking a photo of nearly 10 years ago, and it's growing out of a stone. It'll be quite interesting to see if it's actually grown any in all that time. I suspect it doesn't grow that much. Being a mountain environment, things don't grow very fast up here. Oh, and there's our tree. And there we have it. It's a grower. It's a mountain ash. It's actually got berries on it. And it's quite incredible. I'm just as impressed now as I was then that it can actually anchor itself to rock like that. But that's the nature of nature. When you have a bare substrate like rock, or if you have a landslide and bare rocks exposed, you wonder how on earth plants get colonised, how plants colonise rock again. But all it takes, it starts off with lichens like this, and as these die, and mosses and liverworts, as these things die, they form a very basic rudimentary soil, and then you get the next wave of incomers. So you get mosses coming in that anchor themselves into this very, very thin soil that's left by these lichens and these different things that are crawling on the rock here. And then you get small grasses, and as they die, they break down, they turn into soil, and you do get a very, very thin layer. And that's all it takes in the end for something to come along, a seed to come along and take seed. And that's exactly what this has done here. You think it would be improbable, but there's a gash here, so obviously stuff, organic matter's been accumulating in here over the years, and then that gave it enough soil to be able to actually take root. But it's still surprising that it's got as big as it has. But this process where bare rock comes into having, well, all this on it really, looking green, it's called succession, and you have a process of stages of succession, ranging from lichens to mosses to grasses to small plants to small shrubs to trees. And then you get what's called the climax community, which is what the landscape will get to if it's left alone. So in most cases in this country it's forest. That's the climax community that we'd expect to have. There are actually very few landscapes, very few places in the UK where succession is allowed to progress to its climax, to the community of species that would develop naturally. We tend to artificially halt succession, either by having farming, by have animals grazing the land, or we deliberately manage grouse moors to keep the heather short, or we have deer. We keep very, very high numbers of deer in this country for stalking or whatever, and that stops trees from regenerating, which is why when you go places you'll see big swathes of trees in Scotland fenced off so that succession can occur. There are all kinds of surfaces, natural surfaces in the world, which are undergoing this succession right as we speak, but it all started in this country back in the Ice Age, when the glaciers melted between 15 and 10,000 years ago, and you would have just had rock everywhere. There'd be no green, just have rock, and that's how it all started, just by having very, very primitive plant and lichen species colonizing to start off with. And slowly over time the soil builds up and it gives a bit more depth to enable more, well, larger plants, trees to grow, and that's why now everything's green. It's a very curious feature in the landscape, and I hope it's here for a very long time and other people get to enjoy it, because it's very unusual. Makes nice photos. Almost there, nearly there. Weather can't seem to make up its mind what it wants to do. It's definitely a sun out. The cloud keeps rolling in. Summit is in cloud. And there's a summit way off up there. Not too far away now. I'm feeling summit fever in my legs. All of a sudden, it usually happens. A little heart pumping, speed quickening. I'm a nightmare. And there we have the first view of the other side, and that's the route up from the north, up this gully. Well, as expected, as soon as you get onto the ridge, you do see more people who've come up from that side. The weather's still not sure what it's doing. The summit's being intermittently obscured by cloud, so hopefully we'll get one or two breaks to see the view. Well, here we are on the summit of Buachaille Moor with its wonderful view. It's a shame. Maybe if I linger a bit it'll clear up, because it is a view worth seeing, especially if you go to the end of this small ridge. Ooh, there's a raven, that's creepy. It's there in the mist. What a wonderful image. You find a lot of ravens up in Scotland's hills. Huge birds, as big as buzzards. Amazing to watch when they're flying, amazing flyers. And you'll see them flying upside down. You'll see a lot of corvids, sort of crows and the like, doing that. Not sure why. I'm hoping it's just because they enjoy it. Just turned around and a raven is right there. Go on. Meters away from me. Go on, give us a squawk. Thank you. And another. Thank you. My pet raven. Come on, clear. Just make out land through there. Well, I've been sat here 5 minutes and I've got cold, so I've got new layers on. It's always the way I sit around for a bit and it's actually not half as warm as you think it was climbing up. I could sit here all day waiting for the cloud to clear. Give it another 10 minutes or so. tock, tick tock. I'm determined that persistence is going to pay off. There's been about 4 or 5 people up here, and they've all come and gone. They've had small glimpses of bits of views. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to sit here until it comes. Oh, might be getting lucky. That's the bridge on the A82 in King's House. The hotel is just there. You can see how high up, what a wonderful perch it is. And if you could see further afield, the whole of the moor is set out in front of you. It's very impressive. Just like that, it closes in again. I think that's as good as we're going to get, plus my batteries are running down. So, oh, is that snow buntings? About, oh, I think there might be snow buntings. I think I'll make that do while my battery's still going. You win some, you lose some. That's the way it is in walking. Typically it's as you leave that everything clears. Well, it clears somewhat. Oh, we're getting views the other side now as well. It's a bit of a treat. Looking down into Glen Etive, which is over here. Now you can even see the bridge at Buachaille. What a way to finish. Not bad.